Hello, and welcome to another episode of Creating Cultures That Outperform. We're getting deep into AI governance. We're on our third episode here on enterprise-wide AI transformation, the governance portion of it. And this week, we're getting into the roles and responsibilities. So I'm here with my amazing co-hosts, Terry Mays and George Pace. And we're looking forward to actually, presenting this piece of the puzzle. All right, so let me get this back up. Sorry for the delay, folks.
There we go.
Yeah, and I'll just go to one size smaller. There we go. All right, so let's talk about some thoughts for the week. We see a lot of companies diving into AI. But one thing we were talking about is that individuals and companies are going to have to remain agile, relevant, and proactive as a key to success. And we think that in general, companies may be a little too reactive. And this is not new. This is something that's been happening for a long time. And so on the company side, data, thoughts, information, really thinking it through is key. And for individuals, delving into this area and honing skills so that you're relevant when the cuts do hit eventually.
And don't expect that somebody's going to tell you what to do or what to prepare for, because they're not. So this is something that you have to do proactively. And if you're waiting for somebody to give you the guidance, I'm telling you now, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Nobody's coming to save you. You're on your own. There's no
one is coming to save you.
No one.
Well, I think, a lot of these companies are really having some quite knee-jerk responses to what's happening with this disruption. So we've not had disruption like this in my lifetime, right? So
agreed.
I'm 54 in June.
I like this.
And I've never seen anything like this. The pandemic was another one of those disruptions that I'd never seen anything like that. I think what's happening with just the political climate we have and everything that's happening with all of the changes in corporations and just the way, even with everybody being asked to go back into the office, all of these different things are happening, and they feel to me very much like knee-jerk responses. So we're trying to figure out how to move and survive, because remember, our brains are all hardwired for survival. So when we feel this threat that's coming in with all this disruption, there's a lot of uncertainty and we don't know what's going to happen next. And so we're hardwired to succeed and to thrive. And so that's what we're desperately trying to do. And I think companies are making decisions without a whole lot of data and without a whole lot of research and really spending time, but we're doing the best we can, right? So corporations are really at this point just trying to survive. So what do I need to do in order to still be around? Forget about 10 years, next year. Some of the things are that urgent, where if we want to survive and be around in the next year, the next 5 years, we've got to make some pretty serious changes.
Well, I'll tell you, what was so amazing, and we talked about this on a few shows, Terry, that the 4,702 global CEOs and PwC's annual, research that they do, 40% of them felt their company wouldn't be here in 10 years, which is amazing. I mean, those are the highest numbers recorded, and that's held true for 2 years in a row now.
Yeah, and I think it's a lot to do with this AI disruption that we're feeling. Right. So, it used to be that you would call customer service, for example, and you get a person connecting you to wherever you're trying to get connected, whichever department you needed. Well, then we went to all of these phone systems where the phone tree could tell, based on your choices, select this choice or that choice, then it would route you through to the right person. And now when you call customer service, you get a computer saying, tell me in a few words what you want to do. So even just how much we've evolved there, this change is pretty significant, because now you're at a point now where sometimes it's hard to tell if you're talking to a person or not, if you're really talking to a computer.
Well, if you want to do change successfully, you're going to have a good governance model, and you're going to have to be
Absolutely.
thoughtful about this. So you're going to have to use data. And last week we did share a governance model, and this is the governance model we shared with everybody. We did add problem incident change. We realized we had left that off. But other than that, this is the governance model, and you're going to need to run AI through all these different governance mechanisms, depending on the size of your company and how well laid out your framework is. And so, what do the responsibilities, roles and responsibilities look like relative to this? And so, why don't we chat about it? So, first, the executives, and here we're talking about these C-level leaders who are running the company, the real executives, the executive team, probably EVPs or SVPs, depending on the size of the enterprise. What do they own? Well, they've got the strategy, setting the strategy right, funding, ethics, legal compliance, oversight that assures accountability and governance at both the enterprise and divisional levels. They've got to oversee this.
Yeah.
And
Very
I think
important.
they have to oversee this, not looking at AI implementations just like any other thing we've ever done before. So I'll pick on the CFOs for a minute just because I'm in IT. These AI tools are not cheap. Technology is not cheap. And so historically, we've looked through the lens of how much does it cost before we decide whether or not we're going to do it. And I think we're going to get to a point where there are some things that if you don't do it, you're going to be so far behind and you'll never be able to catch up. So it doesn't really matter. And I say that kind of tongue in cheek. It always matters how much it costs. But there's going to be a certain level of spend that you got to put some investment in these tools and in governance and training and skilling up the people. You've got to spend the money, and you may not see that cost return back in the next year or 2 years.
It may take longer. They have to do it now. You've got to be upskilling the organization right now. They've got to be experimenting. They got to be learning things, or you're never going to have the insight and expertise to put the strategy in place.
Yeah, you'll be too far behind.
You'll be too far behind. Yeah.
The unfortunate, and I'm going to play off Terry's CFO comment. The unfortunate part is that, one of the questions that gets asked fairly frequently is, what is the return on this investment? And the problem space is that there's it's a very hard, I've tried, I'm telling you from experience, I've tried doing this. And the problem space is pretty unique in that you might see an uptick or a productivity gain in month 1 or months 1 and 2. And the problem is once you've reached that plateau, you've plateaued. There's no additional, it becomes BAU functionality at that point. You can no longer say, what's my return? So if you really wait to figure out what the return is, to Frank's point, you're way behind already. Now, that's not to say that you can just spend forever. There is, your governance effort has to do some type of cost containment so you don't create all this technical debt all over the place. This is why we're talking about the roles, because everybody's going to play a role in this.
Yeah, it's not a license for reckless spend.
Right. No. But most of these companies, they've really never actually controlled the tech debt and the spend, and they move very slowly. And 85 or 90 cents on every dollar is going to run the business. They don't have a lot of room to grow the business, which is what this is about. And so it's the same movie, but I think it's even worse because of the speed this time. This is moving so fast that they've got to, if they hold back, they're going to be too far behind. There's no question.
And remember, as you look at these roles, the other thing to take away is be careful what you ask for, because you might get it. It's one thing for the executive level to say, this is kind of what our dream is. But the reality is that implementation is going to disrupt something that's going to be very uncomfortable to the organization. And you can't turn a blind eye to that. So as these roles are working together, realize that even though there are directives that come from the top, they don't necessarily understand the change or the impact throughout the organization. That's the real challenge.
Yeah. And, you get to this management level under the executives, and really, these are the folks actually implementing these strategies that have been set by the executive team and the firm. They're managing the teams, overseeing compliance, and making sure that what they're doing is working. Product owners got to be on top of the quality here heavily. It's not just about defining the product, but really making sure that they get a quality result. So that quality assurance is going to be huge.
Yeah, prioritizing. That's the
Yeah.
key point. Prioritizing features. It's so important to focus on the right things at the right time. And that's a delicate dance. I've been in this role before, and trying to make sure that you implement the right things at the right time is not always easy. There's lots of things to consider with different resource utilization and just timing. It's always a dance. And so having your hands right in the hands of the business users,
Yeah.
having everybody working together, kind of like this one big happy partridge family.
Yeah.
You gotta have everybody on the same page, and you've got to have a great culture that allows for you to make some quick decisions,
And mistakes and learn from them.
right, mistakes, and learn, grow, so that you can move and change when you need to move and change. You can't have a top heavy organization where every decision has to go up to the top. You're going to sink from the start. It's just going to take you too long to get through.
And, as we talk about these roles, like the product owners, the whole issue of trust, which we covered in an earlier episode, trust, to build that trust around the results and know that what you're getting back from the system, you can track the path of how, in fact, that decision was made by AI. So you can double check everything. Because when these things get running, if you're processing millions of transactions through this thing, one error can have enormous implications. It's moving so fast.
And the other thing to take from this is, as you look at these roles from executive level, management level, product owners, realize that there needs to be someone responsible for leading this effort. It is not realistic to expect that each product owner is going to know what the company wants to do, what the tooling is, what the strategy is, what the processes are. It's just not realistic. So there needs to be somebody in charge of this that's coordinating and educating across all of these roles. So again, don't look at these as a series of, because you could look at this and say, boy, this is a lot of overhead. It's where are the responsibilities and who's helping to make sure that those efforts are consistent across the entire enterprise.
And, companies have not done a great job on strategy for years. And in terms of ensuring that the strategy is really understood, top down, bottom up by everybody, and in fact, it's being embraced, I think companies have fallen short in that area so many times. And it's going to be very important here, George. I'm in agreement with you. Terry, you wanted to say something.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, I think the whole hierarchy that we are so used to experiencing, where every decision has to be made from the top, we really have to dismantle that and create a circle where we're all together equally thinking about what needs to happen next. And then we're making an intelligent decision based on the data that we have. And we're moving in the same direction as a unit versus just having this single person at the top that's making decisions that affect the entire organization. I think that's part of what the problem is with this whole, let's just make these drastic cuts in budget and in resources. I think that's symptomatic of one person at the top making decisions.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. And so roles and responsibilities, we can't forget about all the folks. We've got the users who are actually using AI and are probably the early adopters, and then everyone else in the company. And so they really have to be using this stuff as intended. They got to provide feedback on performance, follow any guidelines, understand exactly what ethical use is in that company. And for everyone else, I think it doesn't say it here, but it's really them getting up to speed, staying relevant. Put your hand, in the water and start moving up the learning curve on your own. There's a lot you could do on your own. You don't need to wait.
Yep.
Yeah, there are a lot of free resources out there too.
A lot.
I think YouTube University is quickly becoming one of my favorite places. I just can't believe how much information is available out there.
That's incredible.
Podcasts and shows like this where we just kind of give it away for free.
You
Yeah.
know, and one of the other things to look at on this is, and I've heard of this and I've seen this over the years. As an individual, let's say that your manager is not engaging or adopting or accepting of these technology changes. Network within your company, find those thought leaders and connect and network with them. Just because the path straight up may be not ideal, shall we say, or you're not finding the support you need, look throughout the organization. So don't, again, I've seen people that once they see their manager says no, they're kind of like, oh, I can't do anything. No, there's other people in the organization that you can network with.
Yeah. And so, our next episode on enterprise-wide AI transformation will probably be another episode on governance, although we haven't decided yet as a team what we're going to cover next week. But the theme of enterprise-wide AI transformation is the topic. There's a lot more to talk about, and we're going to have another great show for you. We're here every Wednesday at 3 p.m., and we hope you can join us.
Yes. Bye for now.
Take care.